Hi there, I'm Stacy, the mixed media encaustic artist behind Studio Stacy. In this week's video, you will see what a typical day looks like as an encaustic artist. A bit of self-care, some painting, and everyday life stuff. So come spend the day with me. Morning, guys. It's early. I start my morning out on the treadmill, so sorry for the really haggard look, but I started out on the treadmill and I watch By Bun YouTube. I'm always tempted to come right upstairs to the studio after I get off of the treadmill. But I am trying this year to set some new habits, and that is to do some reading and some morning journaling before I come right up here. Because I know once I get up here, nothing else gets done. I don't leave this space until lunchtime and then again until dinner time. So after I get the journaling done, I also am trying to get the kitchen cleaned up right away from the previous night's dinner. And then, of course, coffee is always needed along with some breakfast. And now that we have the basic essentials out of the way, up to the studio, and I always start the day with plugging in the wax and getting that heated up. And then while the wax heats up, I have been getting into another habit of doing some art journaling, or rather some sketchbook, if you will. It's nothing perfect, nothing to keep per se. It's more just to get my hands warmed up and let my head know that it's time to be creative, kind of get in that creative mindset. And then it also allows me to have time for the wax to heat up. I'm not tempted to get onto the computer and go onto Instagram or Facebook or check any of the social media. It just kind of puts me right into that creative mindset, because I think I've said this before in the past, but I'm very much a morning person. And I am most creative in the morning, so I don't want to waste any of that precious morning time. So I was initially going to break this video up into several different sections, but I wanted to show you the complete painting process. It took probably about 4 days to complete this painting, 4 mornings. And so I just kind of chunked all of this together, and you'll see the painting process straight on through. I forgot to mention that I did not record a couple of the very first steps of this painting. So I did a quick little sketch, not a quick sketch, a quick-ish sketch of the painting that I wanted to paint, and I did that on some watercolor paper and watercolor. And then I mounted that to a cradle wood board, so you'll see that image here. And then up next, I painted the blue sky in with some encaustic blue paint. And so now that you've seen that, now I have the rest of the painting process. So let's get started. Here we go.
I start out with several colors of green, and I just pick those out of the cigar box where I keep all the greens. And then I take and I melt those waxes right down, or the encaustic wax rather, the encaustic paint right down onto the griddle. And before I start to paint, I'm going to work on this bottom green area. But before I start to paint that, I want to get it warmed up just briefly because the panel had cooled down completely. And I start with a wash, if you will, of all three of the green colors using a larger natural bristle brush, and then of course the encaustic wax, and of course I fuse in between each layer. I like to mix my paint right on the palette, so there you'll see me adding in some white just to lighten up one of those green colors, and white also makes the green a little bit more opaque, so I don't want to add too much in. Just a few drops will lighten that up, and then just continue painting with that larger brush, and of course torching between each layer. I decide to add an encaustic paint that I bought at a store, and so that's what you'll see me grabbing here. And with that encaustic paint, it's highly concentrated, so you can add quite a bit of clear medium, which is why you see me kind of going back and forth between the palette and that liquid that's in the other griddle, which is the encaustic clear medium. And that just thins it out a little bit and also makes it more translucent, and then also you can extend your paint that way. So we're speeding up the video here, but basically now I'm using a tiny little brush to add in a whole lot of texture, going back and forth again between the three colors of green, adding in a lot more layers than what you'll see in the video here, and then of course torching between each layer. It is now the next day, and I have moved on to the top tree area. And again, I'm just using several different layers of green encaustic paint. And this time I put them in these metal tins, if you will. They're actually meant for encaustic paint, and they have a completely flat bottom, which is really nice. It allows the paint to melt down nicely in the tins on the griddle. Sometimes I use the tins if I want a little bit more paint than what I can get on the griddle, because when you put it on the griddle, it obviously does not stay in a contained area. So it's nice for doing larger areas like this in the tins. You can get more paint on there without having going all over the griddle and mixing between each. And every now and then you'll see me putting the paintbrush onto the griddle, and that does two things. I can either mix the paint up down there on the griddle just a little bit, and I can also heat that paintbrush up, because you want to have the paintbrush hot as well so that your wax doesn't just automatically solidify onto the paintbrush. I also, of course, I'm fusing between each layers, and I'm using a very small paintbrush, as you can see on the griddle there. And that, again, I'm just adding in a lot of texture, a lot of different colors, and a lot of different layers. After adding in several layers of the green paint, I go back in and add in some pan pastel just lightly over the top, and that just helps bring out the texture and unify the entire tree area. And then of course I have to fuse after I add in that pan pastel, because it was a layer, so you always have to fuse between layers. So I make sure everything's out of the way, and I don't want to, catch anything else on fire or anything. adding in a few final details, and the trees are almost done. I should say I also scraped away some areas with a scraper and then painted over some more layers, fused back and forth, a lot of back and forth. And it is now the next morning, and I'm going to be working on the water area. So again, just doing a light fusing because of course the panel and the painting has cooled off all night long. And again, doing the same thing that you've seen me do throughout the painting, adding in some paint directly to the griddle and then adding a little bit of white to that, painting it on with the wide brush and fusing down with the torch. And now I'm adding in just some white paint, going to be adding in some more blue paint. Again, just a lot of back and forth until I get the painting to look exactly how I want it to look rather. And here you'll see me scraping away with a small scraper, and then I do the same thing with the reflection of the tree trunks coming up. And again, adding in some clear medium over the store-bought paint, which is that light blue paint on there. And yeah, just continuing on. Almost done with this painting, and before I let you guys go and show you what the rest of the day looks like, I just wanted to let you know the inspiration behind this painting was from a trip that my husband and I took to Georgia years ago now, but I loved the swamplands of Georgia, and I took several different excursions and kayak tours of the area, and I just loved it. And that is the inspiration behind this painting. So I added in a few more layers, and here coming up is the final painting. I hope you guys enjoyed coming along on this little painting adventure, and stay tuned to see what the rest of the day looks like.
In the afternoon, I tend to lose energy, and I find sometimes I need a cup of coffee.
Stacy was in dire need of a cappuccino. Starbucks, sorry, it's not an option. Warm milk, coffee, frother.
Thoughts on this little experiment?
Epic fail. Epic.
I find that the best time for me to get more non-creative work done is in the afternoons. So I do a lot of computer work in the afternoons. I edit videos, and I make some Instagram posts and some Facebook posts, and I work on some different programs. One of them is Canva. I do a lot of like social media and also a lot of YouTube thumbnails and things like that in Canva. It's a great program. So I work a lot on the computer in the afternoons, and then up until about dinner time. And then I typically stop around 4:30 and make some dinner. Since I've been up quite early, I'm pretty much done by that point in time. And I'm blessed because my husband works from home, so a lot of times he can come out and also help me make dinner at that time, because he actually starts his day pretty early too.
Hi, vlog.
Prosciutto, potato soup for dinner tonight. Yummy, yum, yum. Dinner is served.
In the evenings after we finish dinner, we sit up in our cozy little loft and I crochet while my husband builds Star Wars Legos and makes funny faces at me. We also really love to watch YouTube. Specifically, some of our favorite channels are Trent and Allie, and we love to watch their funny little travels.
I hope you enjoyed coming along on this little day in the life of an encaustic artist. I hope it gave you some insight on what my day looks like, and if you have any questions about it or anything that I mentioned, just leave them in the comments below. I would be happy to answer any of them. If you liked the video, it would really appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. It helps me out tremendously. If you are not subscribed and would like to, I would also really appreciate it if you would subscribe. It means the world to me when you do. Let's see what else. I think that's it. As always, thanks so very much for watching. More painting adventures to come in the very near future. But for now, bye for now.